Okay, we are going to get rolling here, folks, because we also have a deputy administrator of the FRA who may need to catch a flight here this afternoon, so we want to get this rolling and make sure that she is not delayed in everything that she needs to do. So welcome back. I just want to give a heads up to folks that if you are going to be joining us for our annual banquet this evening at the Payne Native American Center at the University of Montana, there will be a bus. There will be bus transportation. Unfortunately, not rail transportation. There will be bus transportation from the AC Hotel to the University of Montana. The bus will leave, I believe, the bus arrives at the hotel at 5:30 p.m. 5:45, it will leave for the university for a prompt 6 p.m. start time at the Payne Native American Center. So hope to see many of you there. Yes, the AC Hotel, which is just like 3 blocks to the west of us here, right next to the Residence Inn, for any of you who were at the reception last night. Probably about as long as it takes to wait for the bus, yeah, so if you're up for walking, it's a beautiful day. You either go across Bear Tracks Bridge, which is on Higgins Avenue, or take the underpass, the bridge, underbridge, pedestrian bridge under the Madison Street bridge crossing, and you'll be right at the University of Montana campus. So if you can, I would highly encourage the walk, because you've been sitting here a long time today. The next part of our presentation is something new to the Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority. Earlier this year, after giving this a good bit of thought, and in the spirit of gratitude that I mentioned earlier, kicking off today's conference, we created what we are calling the Founders Award. This will be an annual award given by the Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority to those individuals or organizations who have contributed in an exceptional way to enhancing and expanding passenger rail service in the state of Montana and beyond. When we first started the Rail Authority 3.5 years ago, actually about 4 years ago, when we started thinking about what is a means or a path forward to accomplish expansion of passenger rail service, we started looking around in terms of what options we have as counties here in the state of Montana, because clearly isolated and siloed municipalities or advocacy groups did not get the job done. So what can county government do, since counties are contiguous across the entire state? And one of the things that we landed on is, well, maybe we could create some sort of Uber transportation district and cobble together counties in a way that uses the existing statutory authorities that we are aware of. Well, in this process, one of our astute deputy county attorneys here in Missoula County discovered that, lo and behold, there is a statute on the books dating from the early 1990s that authorized counties, and only counties, to either individually establish rail authorities or collectively establish regional rail authorities. So were it not for that statute, HB 541, that was passed and signed into law in 1993, my friends, we would not be here today, and we would not have accomplished everything that we've been able to accomplish in the last 3 years. So I'm delighted that this year we will be presenting our inaugural Founders Award of the Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority to the 3 state legislators who in 1993 had the foresight and the gumption to get over the finish line the statute that allows for the creation of regional rail authorities in Montana. And back in 1993, the law that was eventually signed, the bill that was eventually signed into law, the main impetus for that was, how do you save some of the short line railroads and spurs up in northeastern Montana that were used for grain hauling and agricultural production? How do you create a mechanism to help save that? And this was that legislative mechanism Over 30 years have passed, and we as the Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority are the only regional rail authority in the state of Montana that has capitalized on this law. And thankfully, they had the foresight to include passenger rail in that initial statute, even though the main impetus was freight and grain hauling, not passenger rail service. So this is testament to sometimes the germination of these laws and what they can do is almost generational, certainly several decades long, but it's a testament to folks who served this state in the Montana legislature that we are standing here today. And I would like to present the Founders Award to these three individuals. The first, who is with us here today, is Mike Halligan. Mike, come on up. Mike is the executive director of the Dennis and Phyllis Washington Foundation. Mike served in the legislature from 1980 through 2002. And without his work and the other two sponsors, again, we would not be here today. So on behalf of the Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority, thank you, Mike, for your service and for doing what you have done. The second individual who I would like to present this award to is not with us in the room today. I don't know if she's online or not. Linda Nelson. Representative Linda Nelson served in the legislature, served in the Montana House from 1989 through 1994, and the Senate from 1994 through 2004. She has quite the resume, served on a wide range of committees while she was in the legislature. She currently resides in Billings, Montana. Is she on the line? She is not. Well, I spoke with her on the phone the other day. She's 81 years old, and she indicated to me that if there were a passenger train, she might be able to travel to Missoula to accept the award in person, but that is not an option. We will get the award to her. So thank you. Let's give a round of applause to Linda Nelson. The third and final award, and this is a little bit bittersweet. So this award goes to Dennis Nathy. Dennis served in the legislature for a good number of years, 1980 through 2000. Well, actually, excuse me, I screwed up my dates there. Dennis was born in Scobie, Montana in 1938. Dennis was a state senator, as was Mike Halligan, who just received the award. Dennis grew up on his family ranch up near Redstone, south of Redstone, Montana, in the northeast corner of the state. And Dennis was serving in the legislature in 1993 and was one of the co-sponsors of HB 541. Dennis actually passed away during that legislative session in 1993, so he is not able to be with us here today to see his work come to full fruition. But I did have the chance to speak with Dennis's family, his daughter Alicia, Nathy on the phone, and is Alicia or any of the Nathy family members on the line today? It looks like we may have Linda Nelson calling from Billings, Montana on the phone. Can we patch her through? So let's give a round of applause, though, for the family of Dennis Nathy. Okay, if anyone from the Nathy family would like to say a few words, unmute yourself and we will patch you through. Or Linda Nelson, if you were out there.
Hello?
Yes, hello. Who are we
Hello?
speaking? Yes, who are we speaking to?
Hi, this is Dennis's daughter, Alicia Nathy. I'm south of Redstone in my home country here, fencing. Thanks for being patient with me trying to unmute my mic out here on the prairie.
Well, Alicia, as you might have heard, on behalf of the Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority, we are delighted and honored to present this year's Founders Award to your father, Dennis Nathy, and happy that the family can accept it on his behalf. Is there anything that you'd like to say?
I would just like to convey to all of you how much it means to my whole family. There's a number of aunts and uncles listening today. My brother's spraying in crop for our crops, and he's trying to listen as well. And we're very honored that people remember, and that the work that Dad felt so strongly about is still alive and well and creating wonderful opportunities across the state of Montana. Dad served from the 70s until 1993 when he did pass away there during the legislature. And Linda Nelson and Mike Halligan, I remember very, very well as a child, filing a lot of bills with a lot of guys, especially from Butte and Missoula. Dad had friends from all over the state and always felt like being a citizen legislator was the greatest honor. And working across party lines was a common theme for him. And we're just really honored to be included today. Thank you for reaching out to me. And it means a great deal. And congratulations on all the achievements thus far. And we continue to keep track of your work and your efforts from Northeast Montana.
Thank you. And Linda, are you out there? Did we lose Linda? Okay, well, if we get her back, we will see if we can get her on the speaker system to say a few words. But while we're waiting for that, and thanks again, everyone, for participating in the selection of, and also thank you, Mike, for being here in person today as a recipient of this award. Our keynote address, before we need to get her on the road, is the Deputy Administrator of the Federal Railroad Administration, Jennifer Mitchell, and you all have her bio, which is pretty impressive, so I will not go over that again right now, but on behalf of the Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority, the Deputy Administrator, Jennifer.
It is really, really great to be here, and first of all, to see all of you, to sense just the energy in this room and the excitement for passenger rail. I really want to say thanks to Dave for your advocacy, for inviting us here, but also for just bringing this group of people together. I can really sense not just your enthusiasm, but your leadership, your ability to your sense of public service as well, and your ability to keep this momentum going. So you do have a little bit about my bio in your packet, but I do want to tell you a little bit about my background, because it kind of frames up how I see some of the work that you guys are doing. I've been in transportation pretty much my whole career, but prior to coming to FRA, I was director of the Virginia Department of Rail and Public Transportation for a little over 8 years. And during that time, we were able to initiate and fully fund a $3 billion program of projects just for passenger rail. During that time, we were able to expand new service into Hampton Roads, into Richmond, and into Roanoke, Virginia. We entered into some agreements with our host railroads, both CSX and Norfolk Southern, which are going to more than double state-supported service across the state. We created a new Virginia Passenger Rail Authority through state legislation, so I certainly appreciate how hard it is to get anything done. But setting up those governance structures are so important that you all clearly have benefited from here too. And spent a lot of time working with advocacy groups like this across our state. And in other parts of the country. We also partnered very closely with North Carolina too. But I really understand the importance of groups like this authority for building momentum for passenger rail, to create partnerships with the business community, because your voices in the business community are so important. Building support in your state legislature. Again, those voices coming from the business community, the tourist community, the environmental advocates as well, are so important to creating legislation and getting funding streams for passenger rail. Also making the case in Washington, whether it's with your legislators or whether it's with people like us at FRA and DOT. I know Dave has been in DC and has also met with Administrator Bose. Secretary Pete, who we saw earlier, was also out here in May to highlight more than $2.4 billion of various DOT grants that are going to modernize transportation across Montana. So again, it's very important, and from everything that I can see from my vantage point and having had the opportunity to be here now for a couple days, it's very clear that you guys are doing all the right things. So congratulations, and certainly keep up the work. Because this is the moment that many of us have been waiting and that we have been advocating for in passenger rail. With the passage of the bipartisan infrastructure law, I know I have heard the Secretary say several times that for passenger rail, he believes that we're going to look back and we're going to see rail before the infrastructure bill and then rail after the infrastructure bill. And I believe that we are really at that very pivotal moment of time right now. So thanks to the bipartisan infrastructure law, we have unprecedented funding that's going to passenger rail right now. We hear a lot about $66 billion, which was the total amount that's actually divided up into a lot of different pots of money, but just unprecedented funding over a 5-year period, particularly to also address some of the greatest state of good repair challenges that we have across the country too. We are moving forward projects of national significance, and we are also building that pipeline of projects that we can use to expand passenger rail in the future. That's what the Corridor ID program is. So when Lyle came and showed you the map of the Corridor ID projects, also the lines that are being identified as part of this study, all of those are designed to create that pipeline of future passenger rail projects. So while we only have funding today for 5 years, it's a very significant amount of funding. It is not a long-term stream of funding like you have in the Highway Trust Fund, like we have with public transportation as well. So we need to continue to advocate for that longer term. And again, that's why all of your voices are going to be so important in making that happen. So it's been a really unprecedented period of time to be at FRA as well. Last year, we announced more than $28 billion in grant awards. That included a grant under our federal state partnership program in Montana in Malta, Montana, at the Amtrak Malta station, where the Empire Builder Service provides long-distance service as well. And as you know, as you've heard a lot about this morning, the North Coast Hiawatha has also been selected in the Corridor ID program too. So thank you again to the authority for submitting the application for that. We see this as a real win for being able to revitalize rural communities and also tribal nations as well along this route. This would provide new service, restoring a route that was discontinued in 1979 on an existing alignment. So I'm very happy to say that we have actually obligated the Step 1 grant for the North Coast Hiawatha line. And we look forward to working with you all on the next step, which is developing that service development plan. After that is what we call Step 3. I know Lyle talked a little bit about that this morning, but that's really where we have the ability to put some significant resources behind planning and project development as well. So just a few more pieces of advice as we are moving forward with the planning for this. Continue to embrace that strong coordination, particularly with the state departments of transportation, which is very, very critical, and the Class 1 railroads. I was really pleased to see a couple representatives from BNSF here yesterday. I don't think we have anyone from BNSF here today. I know they had to leave this morning, but BNSF, along with a number of the other Class 1 railroads that we have across the country, has seen the bipartisan infrastructure law as an opportunity for them as well. And they realize that funding for passenger rail can also benefit them and benefit their networks too, which is good. We want a strong freight system. We want to be able to address supply chain challenges too. And so it's been really good to see that the way that a number of the Class 1s have come around in a way to really collaborate a lot more with states, with regional authorities to expand passenger rail. We're seeing much better on-time performance than we've seen in the past. We still have some challenges that we are addressing and that Amtrak is attempting to address at the Surface Transportation Board level as well. But I personally am optimistic about what we're seeing as a very positive forward momentum again on passenger rail issues. We're very excited about the potential for the North Coast Hiawatha line as well. We know that it would create jobs, generate $271 million in economic impact a year, provide both affordable, safe, and clean transportation year-round to promote healthcare, tourism, education, and commerce, and to be able to upgrade those lines for both freight and passenger service. It is the only corridor that we have that is in both the long distance study and the corridor ID program, which is also good because it gives us the opportunity to explore how to develop this line in a lot of different ways too. And as you heard earlier today, on the long distance study that we're working on, we do plan to submit that to Congress later this year. You heard about 47,000 comments. That, to me, is just, first of all, unprecedented, anything we've seen before at FRA. But it also really shows the demand that exists for passenger rail across the country. That's just an incredible amount of comments and an incredible level of interest. So we do want to continue to build on that as well. So, with the long distance study, we know that we're going to be able to put forth a policy recommendations, a governance framework, address some of the funding questions as well, look at costs. It will not be a complete picture yet of the costs that will be required to advance all of these lines because we know that there will still be the next step of this, which is working with the Class 1 railroad to identify where there may be capital improvements needed. But this is all pushing us in that right direction and being able to galvanize support for long-distance service expansion overall. So before I go, I do want to talk a little bit about what FRA is doing right now, too, in addition to some of the things you heard today about corridor ID and about the long-distance study. We are really trying to give Americans that high-quality passenger rail that we know Americans deserve. Thanks to the bipartisan infrastructure law, we have seen a 4,300% increase in our funding over an annual year. I actually had to do the math myself because that seemed implausible. But last year, in calendar year 2023, we were able to award $28.6 billion compared to calendar year 2022, where we awarded $603 million. So that is actually over 4,000%. So that's great. But what it does is it's also brought a new and expanded role to FRA that we didn't necessarily have before. We've been a safety regulatory agency for many years and focused very much on railroad operations, making sure that those are safe. That is still at the core of FRA's mission and will continue to be as well. However, we now have this much bigger expanded role when it comes to railroad development, program development, and expanding passenger rail too, and really putting us in a position to become the real leader in railroad development too. As a result, we are focusing on driving projects, on improving collaboration, and building capacity, not just within FRA, but also in state DOTs and regional authorities across the country, as well as Class 1s. We need to see more professionals coming into this field that can do the planning and the engineering for these projects as well. So the mission statement for our railroad development group is partnering to advance effective rail investments. And I really want to emphasize the partnering part because it's a bit of a different role that, for FRA now to take, where we are really looking to partner much more actively with states, regional rail authorities. The Class 1s are partners in labor as well. I know we have someone here today from the machinist. Thank you for coming. But it has also created new demands for staff too. We have increased significantly. We've gone from an organization of having about 780 staff in 2022 to now having over 1,100 staff as of today. So that's a very significant expansion. We've reorganized. We've created new departments to be able to perform all the work that we have. It has also reflected the significant demand that we have for our grant programs. Even with all of this funding, we have still been oversubscribed by a ratio of about 4 times more in requests than we have been able to award. An example of that, though, is what all of these applications mean is that back in 2022, we had 100 people in FRA that were reviewing grant applications for our CRISI program. Today, we have 337 people reviewing grant applications in just a very short period of time. That's just for one of our programs. So, again, just really reflects the fact that we have now advanced to a new level of staffing, of responsibilities. We're very excited about it, but we also recognize the responsibility that comes with that as well. We are focusing very much now on getting money out the door. So it's great to make awards. That's the best part, actually, to be able to go and, present and release the awards, the names of the people that will be getting awards. But the next step is really the most important one, which is then getting the money fully committed and obligated and beginning to actually get out in the community to hire contractors and consultants and engineers to make sure that we are getting that money into the economy as well. So that is what we're focused on today. It's in addition to continuing with awards and getting notices of funding opportunity out, it's we're really pivoting our focus now to making that money get to work. We recognize as well that in order to make the case for more funding long term, we are going to need to show results, and we are also going to need to demonstrate success. So it's been great to have these the funds that Congress has entrusted to us, but unless we can show that that money is actually starting to turn dirt and move projects, we know it's going to be really hard to make that continued case for long-term funding. But hopefully you can all see that through the bipartisan infrastructure law, America and the federal government is finally getting serious about passenger rail. It's good for local economies, it's good for workers, it's great for the environment, and most of all, it's good for Americans across the country, including here in Montana and across the Northwest. We will continue to invest strategically to bring new and expanded services to more regions around the country and to grow a safer, cleaner, and more equitable rail system. Again, I appreciate the Big Sky's strong support for passenger rail. I look forward to continuing to engage with you all through the corridor ID process and on our long-distance service, and really through your continued meetings and activities as well. So again, thank you for having me. Thank you. Yep. Okay.
You gonna hit the road?
Yeah, I've got to hit the road. I can't
Okay.
questions. But thank you all so much.
Thank you. All right. Well, we're going to take just a short break that does not appear on your agenda, but it will allow us time to get assembled for our next panel, which will last from 1 to 1:30. It will be a lightning round session focused on rural and tribal engagement. So stretch your legs for a few minutes, and we'll see you back here at 1 p.m.